Hey, we're here. So after you decided to have an auction, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to send off for a title search. And that's what we've probably talked about multiple times. And so the person on the other end, Angela, the Angela I refer to is right here next to me. And I got her to come on for a few minutes to explain the title search process and what we do when we get a property ready for auction. So Angela, hello, and meet our,
Hello.
this is who you'll be talking to. So Angela, tell me what happens when we've just had the auction, it's over, and now we may have to call to get payoffs or do some title work. What are you going to need from the seller, and what are you going to need from the buyer?
Typically, once it goes under contract, Jay sends me everybody's contact information. So I will reach out to the sellers, find out what we need to order payoffs on, whether it's just a mortgage or maybe there's some liens out there or a homeowners association. So I will collect all of that from the sellers. The buyers, I'll just kind of reach out to them and let them know what to expect as far as the closing. If it's cash, usually that's a little bit quicker. If it's a lender, then we'll work with your lender and make sure everything gets ready for closing, prepare closing fees, and send that out to everybody as we get closer to a closing date.
Okay, so we have the auction typically a weekend. So on Monday, you're going to get the contract, and then you reach out to the buyer and the seller. The buyer has the right to use their own closing attorney. You don't have to use Angela. You don't have to use the attorney that I recommend. I just like using someone that gets the job done right the first time, and that's what Lawyers Land and Title does here. So you do the title work. If there's a lien or a mortgage that needs to be paid off, you take care of doing that, and then we set a closing date. So where do we come? What does that look like far as what do we need to bring with us and what's needed for at closing?
So when you come to closing, you'll come into our office. You do need a picture ID or an ID that says you are who you say you are. So you'll bring that with you. If you owe any money for closing, anything over $10,000, we do request that you send a wire transfer, which you can do at your bank. Anything under that, you can bring a cashier's check. And that's all going to depend on if it's a cash deal or a loan on how much money you have to bring in.
Okay.
If you are a seller,
yes.
Money back. We can cut you a check at closing, but I know some banks will hold those funds. So if you want us to do a wire transfer into your bank account, we do need your bank account information. So just make sure and bring that with you.
Okay, so as a buyer, this is a question we're always going to get. So at auction, we're always going to assure that you're going to get clear title, 100% ownership, free and clear of any liens or encumbrances. And if there were to be any reason we could not give you clear title, that would be the one reason you get your earnest money deposit back. Now, once you get to the closing table, in the days prior, Angela is probably going to ask you, do you want title insurance? So Angela, is it required? Do they have to get title insurance? The seller at auction does not provide title insurance. So if you bought other homes, that could be something your customer are getting paid for you. But at auction, the seller does not provide that. That's an expense to the buyer and the buyer's decision if they want that. So where do you recommend and where do you go for as title insurance?
So for title insurance, it's always optional. If you're getting a loan, your lender is probably going to require you to have title insurance, at least for the loan. So you might as well get it for yourself because typically it's only like an extra $50 to get it to cover yourself. I always recommend title insurance. I did foreclosures for 7 years before I got into retail and saw a lot of ugly titles out there. So, I mean, title insurance is just going to protect you. Typically, this is going to be one of the biggest investments you make.
Mm-hmm.
Why would you not get insurance on it? You get insurance on the physical of the property. So why would you not insure your ownership in the property?
Again, totally elected up to the buyer if they want to get it or not. So the closing happens. We can do that in person, on site. We can do it online, I guess now. If we end up using different closing companies, what does that look like? And we'll sum this up here in a 5-minute video.
If we use different title companies, typically the seller would come here and sign, and then the buyer would go somewhere else and sign, or either or. And then on the day of closing, we would work with the other title company to coordinate getting documents transferred back and forth and getting funds transferred back and forth. Typically, it is a little bit easier if both sides close with the same company, just because the money just flows quicker and everything gets closed out a little bit faster. But it's just, preference wise. So
awesome. Thank you. Hey, we believe everyone deserves to have absolute certainty when it comes time to selling their most valuable assets. Owning real estate's the American dream. Selling it shouldn't be a nightmare. And the closing process Doesn't have to be difficult. And that is why I try to use Lawyers Land and Title every single time, at least in the Middle Tennessee area. And they can really close outside of that. But that's as far as convenience. Angela, thank you for shooting this little video for me. I hope it's informative for our buyers and sellers. And thank you for your time.
No problem. Thank you.
Thank you.